How are you, my man?
Great. Glad to be back on. Thanks again for the invite. How are you?
Well, you keep putting out the good work, and you keep going to Elijah Haven games, and you keep going to scrimmages. You're kind of forcing me to not have a choice here to bring you on, man.
Just doing my job, man. You know how it is in Baton Rouge. There's always something going on. You got a baseball scrimmage, you got a gymnastics meet, and then the number one recruit in the country is playing a high school basketball game in the middle of all that. So always things to do here.
Very true. John, can I ask you something very unprofessional? Can you move the mic a little bit closer up? I can barely hear you.
How's that?
Better.
Okay. I'll keep tinkering with it. I was on YouTube earlier doing a live stream, College Football 25, and we may have gotten a little handsy with the mic. You know, it was a game. So.
Well, I could barely hear you, and look, you know, the people on the audio side of things that listen, they get so pissed off at me, like, hey, Blake, it's not breathing so heavy in the microphone, you know, like I feel like I listen to a fat guy eat cake, which I do love cake and I am pretty chunky. So I just got to, you know, I can't help myself, but that nevertheless, thank you so much. So Go ahead.
This is good here.
Good. Yeah, good. Speaking of Elijah Haven, you did go see him play basketball this weekend. My goodness. What an athlete, dude. I mean, this kid is special. Your thoughts on just being around him, seeing him, and you've seen a lot of him football, basketball-wise. What are your thoughts about Elijah Haven, the number one dude in the country and in the state for 2027?
I think above all the athletic traits, he's just such a great guy. Like everybody you talk to about Elijah Haven, that's probably the first thing they'll say about him if they're not talking about his arm, you know, what he does in the basketball floor or the football field. But after that game, I'm standing, waiting to take a picture of the score sheet, you know, to say who scored how many points and all that kind of stuff for the news. And he comes up, he's like, hey, I gave you your highlight for the night. And I was like, yeah, you know, I guess you did. You're always good for that. He's just such a nice guy, you know, like he goes out of his way to say hi to you, to continue building that relationship. And he's like that with everybody. He did an interview with my sports director, my boss, Jacques Doucet. And I've spoken to him in the past as well. And he's just so well-spoken. You know, he's only 16 years old, but his parents have done a great job with him. He's mature beyond his age, which can only mean great things when it comes to the athletic accomplishments too. But like, you know, he's not one of those guys that has a big ego or all of a sudden has changed up who he is. He's been the same guy since the first time I met him. And I don't see that changing. So we could sit here and, you know, you could watch his highlight tape. It speaks for itself. He's a great athlete. He's still got 2 more years of high school, which is just unbelievable. I can't even imagine what he's going to look like and be playing like 2 years from now based on what he's already done and accomplished. But above all else, he's a guy that can truly be a captain of a program, lead a quarterback room, be the face of a college football team, be the face of a National Football League franchise, in my opinion. So can't say enough good things about Elijah Haven, just the human being that he is, the young man, and then obviously the athlete as well.
Yeah, it's going to be special. And look, LSU had a junior day this past weekend. A lot of kids on campus. It was buzzing. I know me and you were talking about the scrimmage in just a moment. But, John, we did spend a little bit on this last Monday, but I got to ask you, do you feel a different swagger coming from LSU since December? And if so, why? What is your reasoning behind that? Why do you think that is?
No doubt. Things are different. I think the biggest thing for me is that they're being more active. They're showing their face more. Like Brian Kelly and the staff, like every time I open my phone and go on social media, they're visiting with a new recruit. They're sitting down with somebody. Brian Kelly even going over to Dunham High School to watch Elijah Haven play a basketball game is telling to me. I didn't even know he was there. I'm not going to lie. I showed up in like the third quarter. And I posted the dunk, and then Dunham's football coach, Neil Weiner, texted me. He said, yeah, Brian Kelly wanted him to dunk. Unfortunately, he left a minute before and missed that putback dunk that I posted there. So him just going out to these local high schools and showing up to these things, like he's the face of the program. He's the head coach. You don't see that a whole lot, you know, at least at this time of the year when, you know, the season's over, you're kind of getting ready for spring ball, you have some downtime you could be spending doing other things. But every time I open my phone, like I said, he's on a plane, he's in the car, he's visiting with somebody. So it really seems like they're proud to represent the brand, and they're trying to get out and improve this program. I feel like there's an inner confidence in the program right now that they're going to do special things in 2025 based on who they're hiring, what they've done in the transfer portal, and things like that. So I think it's also interesting that I'm pretty sure every coach has Louisiana ties now. on the
Yeah,
staff.
that is correct. Yes.
So these guys are familiar with the area. They're familiar with the high schools, and they could talk any kid's ear off, any high school they visit and things like that. The history, the passion, their personal experience. So I think what they've tried to pitch since day one was, the boot, bringing kids back, keeping kids home. And it's been a great culmination of that over 3 years with the players they brought in, the players they brought back, and the coaches they've added to the staff. And right now you're starting to see that. Like, yeah, we're Louisiana. We're the flagship university. We run this S.
You can say it here. I won't. It won't.
Ish.
Yeah, the ish. Yeah, that's interesting because you don't really see Brian Kelly out there like that. Not like that. Not like this. Not like. I mean, he'll go and visit kids on the road. I'm not saying that he won't. He certainly has in the past, and he certainly will now. Him piping up to the number one player in the country's basketball game when he's got a junior day and his every single minute's being planned. I mean, he's going from Houston to Ruston and then down to Tupelo, Mississippi, and then up to Georgia and then to New Jersey and then coming back for a junior day, all in an 8-hour day. I got to be real with you. I mean, the dude's putting in work, whether people want to admit it or not.
Yeah. We needed to see that, though. We needed to see that he cares because he's got $60 million if he gets fired tomorrow, so or whatever the number is. It's a lot of money. So at some point you can question his motivation. Like, why does he care if they win 9 games, 10 games, or win a national championship? He's going to get a fat paycheck either way, and he's already, accomplished so much in his career to this point. But you can see the words that he's spoken to us are starting to be backed up by action. The fact that they want to win a national championship. They will win a national championship, and they are taking receipts. All of that gets backed up and furthered when you go out and you go on these trips and you try to show your face and improve this program. And I will say, I think it's going to pay dividends because there's just a different touch versus when the OC is there and the head coach is there. And I will say this, Ryan Day was at Catholic High seeing Blaine Bradford, one of the top recruits in the upcoming class. So that's his competition. Ohio State's head coach just won a national championship, could be sitting back on a beach somewhere celebrating that, is out seeing these elite level recruits as well. So he's got to keep pace with these guys. This will be his competition if he wants to win a national championship next year. Ryan Day and Ohio State.
You got to go 2 for 2 inside the city of Baton Rouge. You can't miss. With Blaine Bradford and with Elijah Haven, you got to go 2 for 2.
And Lamar Brown. I mean,
Lamar Brown.
Anybody in these city limits that's an elite level recruit like that, and even the ones that aren't getting the attention they deserve, you got to keep them here. There's no excuse.
I'm getting them on the – I don't care if young NBA young boys in jail or not. I'm getting them on FaceTime.
Right.
I'm calling Boosie like, hey, man, you want to run out with a team? You asked it. We need you to call Elijah Haven today. Yeah. Right? Like I'm doing everything humanly possible to get those kids along with NIL. I do think it's interesting. Let me ask you this. It was announced today that LSU will open up their doors and their gates on March the 8th, and I'm sure that you and I will both be there when practice starts on day 1. Let me ask you this. Door opens. The first thing that John Eads beelines to go see for this new LSU football team. Your thoughts?
Man, I was thinking about that. What are some of the storylines I need to start thinking about for the team this year? Ooh, man, kind of put me on the spot with that one because I didn't come up with an answer. I was curious.
Well, look, here's mine. I'll just give you mine because let me just say this. Wilson Alexander we had on last week. I do it to him every time. Like every single time. So when we bring you back on, you're going to be ready for it next time. So, I mean, then you'll be thinking about it. But for me, it's DB. It 1,000% is DB. I am not going anywhere else. I don't even need to see anything. I need to see who's lining up where. Who's where? What are you doing? Where's Tamarcus Cooley? Did DJ Pickett play? I mean, look – because you were in a bowl game, you didn't throw him out there with the first team. But the kid's been here for 2 months now. Like he'll be here for 3 months and then practice starts. So how does that look? Mansour Delane. By the way, you've been horrible at safety. So the first thing that I'm looking at, Lance Guidry coming into town, a safeties coach in the former Miami DC, who will be out there with Perkins. By the way, if Perkins doesn't play and there's something wrong, who's at star? That's the whole, John, there is so many questions that I have at DB. People keep bringing up to me D-line and O-line. Well, you got a center, you got a guard. I feel pretty sure that Adams will be at tackle and Mabinga and Chester will fight out for these other spots. You have a good idea. Everywhere else, you have a good idea of the rotation of guys that you're going to see. DB, I have no clue.
Right. And that was really your weakness last year. Corner was fine, not great still, but safety has been your Achilles heel really for the entirety of the Brian Kelly era at LSU.
No doubt.
They have lacked elite level play there, elite level athleticism, playmaking ability, the ability to limit big plays, to cause takeaways. That's really been the shortcoming. So they've done a good job addressing that on paper. Now it's time to put the guys in the right positions to play because those guys have some versatility. So that's a good one. The thing with me is I'm so locked in on baseball right now. Anytime someone asks me about football, I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about because once the season ended, I've just gone all in on baseball mode. But since you asked, I like DB. That's a good one. Maybe another one is like tight end, right? Because people are curious, is Trades Green going to be in line? Is he going to be used more as a flex receiver? Where does Donovan Green fit in? Bauer Sharp? What does that position group look like? Is it Trades Green every down? Is it 2 tight end sets? What are you doing there? And then even at receiver, you're losing a lot there. I know you bring back Anderson and Xavion and Chris Hilton, but you brought in some really talented guys with SEC experience, Barry and Browning and Nick Anderson, so many guys there. So what's the pecking order look like there? Is it Xavion, Hilton, Anderson in that order, or do one of these SEC transfers kind of push for snaps there? So I think the pass catching element could be interesting to look at as well.
Considering what Chris Hilton did the last 2 games of the season, in the bowl game and against Oklahoma, there is no way I'm not running him out there first.
But I feel like we've said that before. Let's not forget the guy's jumping off point, I think everyone thought, was the Texas Bowl in 2022 after the 2021 season.
The ReliaQuest Bowl. We just went to the Texas Bowl.
That's the thing. He's always played well in the bowl games and late in the season. But for whatever reason, that momentum, it just doesn't pick up when the season begins the next year. I know there was a wonky situation this year. I feel like we've said that about Chris before. This has to be the year that he puts it all together.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. No doubt. But considering you're right, and you always got to bring up the health in that situation. But if he's fully ready to go, there's no way he doesn't get the first look.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you got that, then we'll see. But I'm with you there at wide receiver. That whole 7-on-7 for me gets a little bit more interesting this year of who separates and then who doesn't. You brought up baseball and separating, so let's bring it up here to you. What are some of the key takeaways that you had from this weekend in the scrimmages?
Yeah, this weekend, I wrote them down. This is why I'm trying to go to so many of these, because you can go to a scrimmage for one day and someone could have a great day, and then you can base your takes off of that. But I want to see consistency. I want guys day in, day out to show me flashes of what they can do and in different ways. So I think my biggest takeaway, like if you're telling me I can only share one, Derek Curiel is him. 2 for 3 on Saturday with a double, a walk, 2 RBI. 3 for 3 on Sunday with an RBI and another stolen base. This guy is so good at the plate. Jay Johnson said he was their #1 quality at-bat guy on the whole team in the fall, and he's a freshman. Gavin Guidry said, I don't know if I said this last week or not, every time he hits the ball, it feels like he hits it on the barrel. Curiel is a starter day one, top of the order. He was hitting in front of Jared Jones, and in the first inning on Sunday, he singles, he gets the first. Jones comes out, 2-run homer over the left field landing. I think you need Curiel, a guy that will get on base very consistently, hitting before Jared Jones. And I think he's in for a huge year. He was D1 Baseball's preseason freshman of the year. Everything I've seen, I tweeted this, the hype is real. Like, believe the hype. Sometimes you see all this hype and you're like, I don't really see it. I see it with Derek Curiel. In the outfield defensively, he's a really good athlete. Center field, left field, sliding, tracking the ball. I haven't seen him make a mistake yet. And I've already mentioned what he's done at the plate. So I've seen some people coming out with projected opening day starters, and Curiel is not in the lineup. You're out of your mind. This guy's starting day one, in my opinion, based on everything I've seen. And I think he's in for a huge year. So take stock in him now.
LSU outfielder with the initials DC.
Heard that before.
Heard that one before.
I think he can be that guy too. That might be, lofty expectations, but I will sit here and stand on that right now based on what I've seen.
Was the 2 questions off of that. because the second question that I have right here in this handy dandy notebook and taking notes for the show here. Okay. My second question was that you did tweet that he is him. I retweeted you on this. Two questions on that. The 1, 2, and 3, the order, was it Stanfield, Curiel, and then Jones? Was that the 1, 2, 3 that you saw pretty consistently in the lineup?
I think so. I think they had Stanfield on the other team on this particular day. And
okay.
It was either Dickinson or Braswell leading off, which I like those guys there too, because Braswell was leading off at the end of last season, and he's a guy that can get on base. Same with Dickinson. I think Dickinson's a hit-and-run guy. He runs the bases very well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jones like 3 or 4, Curiel at 3 or 2, and then you go with a Braswell or a Dickinson at that one spot.
Braswell made a pretty big play this weekend that you had put out there. I forget what clip it was, but he made a serious backhand and a massive throw from short. Yeah. John, I throw it out there. I think you're going to have success no matter what you do, right? Like you talk about even Milo moving to second for a left-handed batter. Yep. They've been putting it in there and moving it around. Did Dickinson go to third or short when that happened? How was that being broken down?
So that's the thing. On this day, when they were doing that, and they may have done it in the past and I haven't picked up on it, but I did on this day, Tanner Reeves was playing second. So they would put Reeves at third, and Milam would go and play that true second base. Braswell would shift over as well for those.
Where's Dickinson? Batters. Was he on the other team?
Yeah, he either didn't play or he was on the other team. I'd have to look back at the footage, but I think that they wanted Reeves to get in there on this day, and they may have sat him and rested him.
Interesting. That's first baseman going to third. Interesting.
Yes, but Dickinson will be the second baseman, I think, no doubt. I'll be curious to see if they continue with this rotation thing, because Dickinson to me has looked really good at second base. Like he's been consistent. He made a play where he scooped up a ground ball, stepped on second, threw it the first double play. Like he's looked good at that spot. Now they're trying to just figure out this whole Braswell at short, Milam at third thing. But that's something to keep in mind. I feel like Jay wants to put Milam in as many positions as possible to touch the ball because he is their best defender. So whether that be you put him at third, you shift him back to second, or whatever it is. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, I keep seeing it from people talking about like it is the number one talking point, and I'm kind of like blah, and this is why I'm kind of like blah. I have confidence in all of them.
Yeah,
you're going to figure it out. Like you're going to have 20, 25 games to figure it out. I keep seeing Braswell on your footage making big plays.
He's
right?
So good.
You would be in here talking about him committing errors and that being an issue. That would be the number one talking point, right? And so the fact that you're not coming in here and talking about how defense has not really been an issue. By the way, Baby Pearson out there making some serious plays at third too.
Yep.
I want to get to Tanner Reeves very quickly before we move on here.
Mm-hmm.
Tanner Reeves been red hot too now.
Yeah.
I mean, so look, man, this freshman class is starting to get a little bit insane. If Cade Aaron-Beatty, Derek Curiel, and Tanner Reeves are in here fighting for playing time,
yeah,
brother, man, I mean, shit. I mean, this is getting me excited.
It should. I just think this team is so deep. You know, they can deploy so many different guys in the outfield, in the infield. They even had Jared Jones DHing one day. And somebody else
playing Reeves first. Back to get it was on your footage. This is what I noticed. Getting Reeves at first, putting Jones at DH to get Tanner Reeves back in the lineup with the starters. That is the thing that I'm like, all right, I've been around Jay enough. That's why I bring it up. I've been around Jay enough. He ain't gonna tinker with something he ain't gonna do.
Right.
It ain't gonna happen. He ain't
not
like these other coaches. Yeah. Not at this point. That to me is a big deal. How did he look defensively at third and first when you saw him was my biggest question.
I thought he was fine. I don't recall any errors he had, any miscues. I'm going to look back at some more of the footage when we get off the call. But especially in the batter's box, he had a home run on Saturday off Zach Cowan. He had hit a home run in a previous scrimmage as well. So he's a guy, he had a huge year for Blinn Community College before, like a ton of RBIs in 2 years there. So he's a guy that has kind of gone under the radar, but has a really good bat that I think translates to this level. And it's looked good. He's consistently been with that team. That's kind of what appears to be the starting lineup. And he hasn't lost any reps. And when he's gotten opportunities, he's taken advantage of them.
Hey, and look, did you see the move that Tennessee baseball pulled off this weekend?
Yes, I did.
Tanner Reeves can be here for 4 years now.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
John, y'all go right on ahead and give Jay Johnson that y'all give him that and see what happens.
Right. You see, are the JUCO guys.
Well, you know what he's going to do. Guys that he thinks that need to go somewhere to get developed, he's going to make some of these teams his farm system. It's 1,000% what's going to happen. I know it's going to happen because I've heard from. Look, both of my cousins played in JUCO. I built a shitload of connections in the JUCO Louisiana baseball world. Jay gonna feed all of them.
Yeah,
he gonna feed all of them, and then he's gonna be like, "Hey, man, the Rafe Rhymes effect is exactly what we're gonna do here." Speaking of Rafe Rhymes, saw him a month ago. I mean, when we had this conversation about it, so it's gonna be very interesting there. Okay, other things that stood out to you. Either good, positive, or indifferent. Well, I guess could be indifferent, but something else that stood out to you from the weekend would be what?
Let's see. There's so many things I could say. I wrote down quite a few bullet points here. I think Cade Anderson. So there hasn't really been a scrimmage I've gone to where one pitcher has just cycled through the lineup, like boom, 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 boom. Let's keep this thing moving. But Cade Anderson did that on Friday. He went 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, 2 hits, no earned runs, and a walk. He's looked the best to me of all the people that have started games. Now, they brought in Anthony Ianson out of the bullpen. They brought in Connor Ware out of the bullpen. These are guys that have shown good things as well that could potentially be starters. But in terms of guys that have started these scrimmages, Cade Anderson has looked the best. So someone I was just going back and forth with on social media was asking me, how has Shores looked? Who's your Friday night guy? To me, and, I understand there's historical stats and stuff you can point to maybe dispute this, but Cade Anderson, to me, is the Friday night guy. If I'm putting my money on it, he's looked the best. Coach Yeski talked about how he stepped up as a leader, showing the transfers, kind of how the system works, helping the guys on the team. He stepped up and been a vocal leader. This is his draft year. If he has an excellent season, he's off to the pros. He's got that kind of motivation backing him. And he had a lot of experience last year. He looked good in a lot of those midweek games. Sure, he kind of struggled a little bit in SEC play, but you're going to take your lumps as a freshman. I think he's learned from that. Coach Yeski even talked about his competitive nature. Like, he would think about all the mistakes he made last year, and he was like a perfectionist trying to fix them. He's such a competitive guy. I think he went as far to say he's maybe the most competitive guy on the team, or that he's been around, something to that effect. So I think Cade Anderson has it all. He's a Louisiana kid. He grew up dreaming of being that Friday night starter, and I think he's going to realize it in less than 2 weeks.
So you're running him out there Friday night?
Yeah.
Another thing that Yeski said, because it was the only thing that we clipped from the interviews from this past week with Jordan and him, which I'm going to go with you there next.
Okay.
But he said Mike Scarborough asked who has made the biggest jump, and Mike wasn't done with the question. Go back and listen to it.
Yep.
Mike's not done with the question, and he says Cade Anderson. So that is very interesting. Are you worried about Shores at all with the command issues?
I am. But with that said, Yeski talked about how he's working on his breaking ball. He's experimenting with different things. So, some of the things that you see in the scrimmage, you might take with a grain of salt. Like, he probably wouldn't throw that pitch in that situation, or he's trying to see what he's got here. I have concerns. He was up and down again. I haven't seen a game still, and I was hoping to see that this weekend where he goes out there and for 2 or 3 innings, he just puts up zeros and he cycles through the lineup, but he didn't do it again, and some of that, he had Cade Arambidi catching, and Cade's been very good. He did have a couple situations where the ball popped out of his glove, gave somebody a free base, or he had a wild pitch that I couldn't tell from my angle Cade should have stopped or not. So that doesn't help. It's just, it's the command. It's the erraticness of that, the free bases he's giving up, and a lot of contact outs, not a lot of swing and miss. Like, I just posted 2 minutes and 20 seconds of his last start, and it's a lot of fly balls to left, to right, to center. Some of these really deep as well. So I'm concerned. I think he just is still trying to clear that mental hurdle of, hey, I'm healthy, I'm back, I can cut it loose. And I was having this conversation with someone the other day. I think when he gets out there and he starts to see some of that success in the box against a real opponent with the real crowd, he's going to get that juice flowing again, and he's going to cut it loose, and he's going to find that stride that he had prior to this injury. But I don't think he's going to have it right away. And that's why I'm going with Cade as my Friday night guy, even though Shores was the game one starter in Biloxi when LSU played Samford. So still just some more ups and downs there. And he's battling back from injury. So
anything from Cowan and Ianson? So you brought in 2 starting pitchers, and Ianson and Cowan. How have they looked?
Cowan was all right, up and down. I think he gave up that Tanner Reeves home run on Saturday. Other than that, he was okay. Ianson was great. 4 innings on Friday, 2 strikeouts, 2 hits. He's been solid every time I've seen him pitch. So I don't have anything bad to say about him. Some people like him possibly as the Saturday starter or a guy they use out of the bullpen on Friday, in a very important role to go a lot of innings. I think, and Yeski mentioned this as well, to be careful with labels, like he's a starter, he's a relief guy, he's a closer,
right,
whatever it is, because they have so many different guys that can fit so many different roles. And it's kind of just going to be, we're going to roll guys out. They're going to go as long as they can and be as dominant as they can. And we're going to put somebody else in. Like, it's kind of like one of those things. One name I do want to mention, DJ Primo. So I asked Coach Yeski, who can kind of serve as that Griffin Herring for you guys this year, that ace out of the bullpen. And I don't know if he was limiting it to lefties or if this was an overarching thing, but I hadn't heard DJ Primo's name mentioned very much. When you talk to the pitching coach and he mentions his name, that's a big deal. And he looked good. He came out in relief, pitched an inning with 3 strikeouts, was solid, high leverage situation as well. So I think he's a guy that we could see Friday, Saturday as someone they bring in to give them a couple of really solid innings. He put in some good work over the summer in the Cape Cod League, and I think he'll be someone they rely on.
And then you got Jacob Myers that I ain't hearing anything about.
Yeah, I saw Myers pitch recently, up and down, but you can't dispute what he's done, right? I mean, he put up great numbers in the Southland Conference from Nichols, played at Santa Monica. I think he's going to be a factor. He's been getting rotations and opportunities. Yeski said, obviously, like every season, they're going to start out with a wide umbrella. And as the season goes, they're going to knock the numbers down just a little bit. I'll be intrigued to see how they do that because they have so many guys that transferred in that started and threw a lot of innings, a lot of strikeouts at smaller schools. Now you got to see how that carries over to SEC play. So Myers is one. Anybody else? William Schmidt. Schmidt came out. I think he had his best scrimmage yet on Saturday when he came in out of the
Did you hear he said that his interesting thing was that he's never burped in his entire life?
I saw something about that. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that was possible, but apparently it is.
I think the man's going to be an all-time all-star because he just doesn't burp.
Yeah.
No indigestion. That is what you call cool.
Yeah.
You know what I thought about? Have you ever seen the movie Semi-Pro when
Yes.
Will Ferrell said he never threw up before and then he got punched in the jejunum and then he found out? Like that might be the thing for William Schmidt. Why is he somebody to not walk on your comment here? Why is he someone that you see is somebody that stood out to you?
Well, he came out and just was throwing heat and a lot of strikeouts. Like he was another guy like Cade Anderson who was cycling through the lineup. That's actually the next thing I'm going to go through after this is his footage from Saturday. I was a little busy. I had to go to the LSU Texas game after the scrimmage, which was but from what I recall, lots of strikeouts and people just going like, ooh, that were in attendance at how fast he was throwing the ball. And his curveball has been mentioned as being elite by guys like Michael Braswell, who's seen quite a few pitches in his life. So that's another. Dalton Beck is a two-way player from Incarnate Word. He hit a home run, but he also pitches as well. So he might be a guy that, they use maybe as a two-way player in the same game. I don't know, because he did. When he hit this home run, he came back out later in the game and he pitched a couple innings. So he's an interesting guy from Incarnate Word. He led the Southland Conference in home runs last year.
Right, 18.
Set school records. So he's an interesting name. Anybody else that really stood out?
What about – here's the only one that I have a question more. So because, look, you had Johnson, Coach Johnson, the other Johnson.
Yep.
Josh, not Johnson.
Yep. Josh Jordan,
excuse me.
Yep.
Josh, I'm thinking of Wes. Josh Jordan, you had him go out there and said that he feels that he could play all 4 of his catchers.
Yeah, and I agree. They all do something different well. Like Blaze Priester's got a good bat. He's an older guy. He's seen a lot. He had some really nice defensive plays when he was catching. Eddie Yaman has some pop in his bat, but he's a good vocal guy behind the plate. Is acrobatic too, can help prevent wild pitches and such. And he's played a lot of baseball from Dayton there. Obviously, Cade Arambidi, Coach Jordan said, maybe has more tools than any catcher I've ever coached. His bat, his arm, the athlete he is, everything. And then Luis Hernandez, who's a top 10 catcher in the country, who was their starter in Biloxi, has thrown out Steelers, has a lot of power in his bat, and has exceeded expectations, as they said, behind the plate. So they've got 4 really good options back there. The way they talked about Cade Arambidi, at least Coach Jordan did, kind of gives me reason to believe he's not going to be a starter day one. He could work his way into that role.
I agree with this.
He said they're going to bring him along at a pace that's going to allow him to develop and maximize his potential, is essentially what he said. So you can kind of read the tea leaves there. I think what they're going to do is maybe give him the occasional start, DH him, pinch hit him, kind of keep the training wheels on a little bit, because Cade has had a lot of wow moments with his bat behind the plate, but he also makes the occasional mistake catching the ball, stopping a pitch, throwing to first base. So they don't want to, send him out there and give him too much that he can't handle. Now, I don't think that the lights will phase him because he's played in some big games in high school and exhibition and whatever else. But you have Luis Hernandez, a guy that's proven himself, that is motivated, is a good two-way guy. There's no need to throw the freshman out there and, overfeed him, for lack of a better term.
Based off of what you've seen so far, this is how my overall feeling through 2 weeks has been. And you please correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
I feel like you are a damn good baseball team. That I mean, if you're cutting me open and based off of things that I've seen now, I'm trying to go out there this weekend, but based off of things that I've seen from probably the 20 to 30 minutes that you have posted, okay, based off of what I'm hearing for you, John, I'm starting to get a feel that this team's going to be very freaking good.
Yeah. That's why Jay is so confident. That's why he works so hard. Like, he just added.
He was not this confident a year ago. He was like, we got so many unknowns. We don't know what's going on. And I'm like, that ain't what's going on right now.
And they've got unknowns this year, but it's a little different because you have answers. You just don't know who they are and which among the possible options, It's an embarrassment of riches to me. Like, they have way too many startable players in the outfield. They have way too many startable guys in the infield. They have a lot of options in the pitching room. It's just a matter of who's going to separate 4 catchers that can play. Like, that's the thing to me. They got so much depth. If someone's not performing, someone else is going in there, and they've got a viable option. So, he mentioned some of the parts not having stars. There may not be a generational talent on this team, at least the current age of the players and their current status and whatnot. They could develop into stars, but they just got a lot of really good players that are here, want to be here, are molded together, have specific duties, responsibilities, and things they need to execute on game day. And I think they're going to get that done more often than not, which is why I think they're going to have a great season, be one of the best teams in the SEC, and make it to Omaha when it's all said and done. So I'm with you.
One more week. I mean, a week and a couple of days, I guess.
Yeah.
I am pumped up, man. I really, really am. I think that this team has the ability to do something special. Like you said, a lot of things they got to still figure out, but I think that they're going to figure it out. All right, John Eads, WAFB. Thank you, good sir. We may see you on Saturday if the good Lord lets us, and we might come out there to a scrimmage and see what happens. But until then, tell everybody when they can catch you and all your stuff and everything that you guys are doing.
Yeah, man, my handle's on the screen, so I've been probably annoying people with how much baseball content I've been posting.
I turned on notifications. I'm like, I want to see it.
There's too many things to share that, would be a shame if they weren't shared. So I'm posting a lot of baseball content. I do a podcast similar to yourself on YouTube, Game Time with John Eads. You can find it on our WFB YouTube page. I'm posting scrimmage intel, scrimmage observations, basically everything I just shared with you, with some video, on top of that. So that'll be coming out this week. We'll do a projected starting lineup. And once baseball starts, we're all in on that. And then in March, we'll have to shift a little bit of our focus to spring football as well.
Very much so. John Eads, thank you so much, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.